I'm gonna buy me a dog.
A dog? Why?
'Cause I need a friend now.
Babe, you need all the friends you can get, I'm telling you.
I'm gonna buy me a dog.
Welcome to the Open Mic Show. I'm your host, Mike Gould. You're listening to the Open Mic Show. We're broadcasting live, as always, from Islip MacArthur Airport every Wednesday at 8 p.m. This is Thanksgiving Eve. So I know I have a lot to be thankful for, and too many people I could really mention. You know, my family, of course, Jackie, my family down in Florida. I want to give a special shout out to my sisters down in Florida, who's taking care of my dad, who 95 years old. Jesus. So they got their hands full down there. So I want to give them a special shout out. Obviously, I have in-laws, grandchildren, nephews, nieces. The list goes on. In-laws. Mother-in-laws.
She's listening, so you better get her in there.
Sister-in-laws. I got to mention them, or else I'm in trouble. So anyway, that's who I'm thankful for the humans in my life, and of course we're going to talk about the animals in our life tonight and how special they are. But so I'm joined here with my lovely co-host Jackie Bondanza, and we have a special guest tonight, Camille Lucy. Author. I'm going to read her biography in a little bit, or her about her kind of thing. She's a pretty well accomplished person. We're going to talk about the things she does, both charitable and other ventures she's involved with. So Hounds Town, USA is home to the happiest dogs on earth. We have now 4 great locations. I have a special announcement, folks. I've been promising this for many months about announcing our 4th location, and it's opening very soon. The location is going to be in the Comac area. It's actually in Deer Park, right near I don't want to reveal the exact address. I want to keep everybody in suspense. But it's right near the Tanger's Outlets on Comac Road, right near the court building. So when I always say our locations are conveniently located, I mean that they're conveniently located. So the new location in Deer Park area is minutes from the courthouse. So you folks working at the courthouse and you don't want to leave your dog home for 12 or 13 hours, providing you're not incarcerated there. We don't want you to leave the dog. But if you work for the court system, maybe I should make, the Deer Park location is going to be minutes away on Comac Road if you work at the Tanger's Outlets there. It's a great location. Mm-hmm. Our Port Jeff location, of course, is minutes drive from Stony Brook University, Mather Hospital, St. Charles Hospital. So if you're listening and you're working these 12-hour shifts that unfortunately in this day and age we have to work so much, and you feel bad for leaving Fido home, or you can't get a reliable pet sitter, they're few and far between, bring them to Doggy Daycare, Hounds Town, any one of our locations. So the Port Jeff location is right on Bicycle Path. Our Farmingdale locations is really at the crossroads of Nassau and Suffolk County, right by the Southern State Parkway, Sunrise Highway, Route 110. So if you're driving by anywhere there, if you're going towards anywhere in southern Nassau or you're passing by, we have a great location there. And of course, Ronkonkoma, our corporate location, is right by the Ronkonkoma Railroad Station, minutes from the LIE. So the point is, we're conveniently located. So there should be a Hounds Town, USA within 5 or 10 minutes drive from where you are on Long Island. And if there's not, there's going to be. So look out for our grand opening in Deer Park. It's going to be really a fabulous location.
And I think they're aiming to open around February. So
they're looking for February, so that'll be exciting.
March.
Hopefully for the spring, the winter break. So just keep an eye out. And I know Terry and Tom, the new owners, have their Facebook page, right? And they're going to be giving away, different promotional things, so you can come and take a look. It's going to be pretty fascinating place. I think it's going to be a really nice, and we're very experienced at pet care. We've taken care of over 500,000 dogs. And we run across everything, different types of situations. We have blind dog, deaf dogs, 3-legged dogs. We take the dreaded, can I say the P word on the radio?
Well, you might as well.
The pit bulls. The pit bulls. We take them, folks. We're going to talk about a very special one of those dogs, one of those His name's Curtis. We got him from the town of Brookhaven Animal Shelter. We'll talk about them in a minute. Last week, we spoke with Marianne Carano-Desch. I wanted to give her son, Paulie, a shout-out. I forgot to mention him. You know, he's a really good kid, and he actually listened. So I don't know how many 14-year-old kids listen to the radio. I don't even know if they know what a radio is.
Wow.
Yeah, I think
He may have been
prompted?
Gently prompted.
No. Well, anyway, whatever the reason, I want a very loyal following in 8th or 9th grade. So if Paulie's listening to that, make it trendy to listen to 103.9. At 8 p.m. on Wednesday nights. And then, you know, so Marianne Carano-Desch was on. She's the owner of the Port Jeff location. She is actually one of the founding members of the Hounds Town Charities that we're going to talk about in a little while with Camille. So we have a whole assorted arrangements of topics to talk about. So Thanksgiving, here we are. Welcome to the show, Camille Lucy. How are you tonight?
Good, thank you.
Great. So Hounds Town Charities. What do we want to say about that, Jackie? Where were we? I forget where we left off last week.
Well, I think it's important to talk about how you started the charity because of your work, you know, with the local shelters and how you've developed relationships with them. And Camille helped found the charity with you back in 2011 to help. Mostly, it turns out to be, I guess, pit bulls, but, you know, that are misunderstood, misdiagnosed behavior problems. Right. And that's, you know, we've, I guess, as the years have gone on, that charity has become more and more part of our Hounds Town. Oh, absolutely. Business.
It's certainly an extension of our Hounds Town family. So yeah, you reminded me. Now, you weren't here last week. You were at an FBI dinner down in Washington, D.C., hobnobbing with Jim Comey, the FBI director. Yeah. How was that, by the way?
I was drinking a martini last, week this time. So.
All right. So that's why you might be a little off your game. And, of course, at 8:15 at night, it's,
if I had a martini, I'd be better.
You would be better. All right. So that's right. So Camille, of course, I think that she has a love of animals, like most people do, but she has, I think, an exceptional. I mean, who doesn't love? If you don't love animals, you shouldn't be, you shouldn't be on Earth, right? We are, of course, animals, but Camille has an extra. She has been volunteering at the Brookhaven Town Shelter, Almost Home.
Yep,
Almost Home Animal Rescue, which they were in the papers recently, right? Yesterday they did. So let's talk about Hounds Town Charities. So we started this. You have a pure, sincere love of animals. I wanted a quick way to go to heaven because I didn't live the best life. So I said, what's better than rescuing dogs?
You need to redeem yourself.
I had to redeem. I'm one of those deplorable, irredeemable people, but I wanted to. So anyway, yeah. No, obviously. And we kind of have a special gift at Hounds Town, meaning we understand the dog brain. And we're not a traditional rescue group, meaning, there are very well-intentioned people, and they do. There's a lot of shelters, for example, Almost Home. They do this extraordinary thing called the meals. So talk about
Training Wheels.
What is that about?
Training Wheels is basically they go into low-income areas and they provide free food and medical to homes that sign up with the program. All winter, they provide straw and igloos and safe tie-outs for the dogs that are on chains.
Now, they were involved, was it right now? Do I have it right? Last night. They came,
it was over the weekend.
Over the weekend. Yeah. During this Training Wheels program where they go visit dogs, especially this time of year, it's starting to get cold.
Yeah.
And dogs aren't really well taken care of. And a lot, so Almost Home, that's one of their very unique programs that they do. Knowing that they can't do everything, so people would argue, well, you're kind of fostering, abuse to animals. But they're doing something that's essential. Either the dogs are going to die, so we have to accept certain things in our lives, I think, that there is a whole spectrum of animals out there that are being abused on some level. So Training Wheels, so they went out, and it's been a big story in the paper. I think they found a dead dog or something?
Yeah. They found a loose dog, and someone in the neighborhood knew where it lived, and they followed the dog and the people to the house, and there was a dog dead, and there was a few other dogs, I think they were puppies, and they were emaciated. None of them had eaten in a week or two.
It's a horrible, horrible story, and we run across this all the time. One of our so Hounds Town Charities, we go out and we learned a few lessons. So our intentions were to help dogs that were not likely to be adopted. It's in some of the shelters, they're called red dogs. They have behavioral issues that really would prevent the average family or the average person from adopting these dogs. So Hounds Town Charity kind of specializes, for lack of a better word, taking these difficult red dogs that have behavioral problems that are really just misunderstood. And I can give you example of that. For example, I will give you one. One of our dogs, Joe, spent 7 years in a shelter. And by well-intentioned people, this was a nice shelter on the South Shore, but because he had aggression towards people, he wasn't adoptable. So Hounds Town Charities, we rescued him and we took him into our program, and we started to do what we do. We just observe them. We let dogs be dogs. What does that mean? We let the dog run in a field. We don't ask him to sit or stay. We don't do anything. We just let the spirit of the dog run. And we start to observe the dog. And in Joe's case, very shortly after we had him for 2 or 3 days, we found out that he was totally deaf. And once we understood that, so for 7 years, this was not a diagnosed illness of the dog. I'm not blaming anybody. But the point is, once we recognized the dog was deaf, we now understand him, and we can now, very honestly, he's probably one of the best dogs I've ever seen, right? Because he doesn't bark he doesn't hear anything, so he's not barking at the doorbell. He sleeps he sleeps through everything. So I think so we take these dogs, and we try to work with them. So the dog now that we're working with, Curtis, is a 3-year-old pit bull mix. So let's call him, what would we call him? Let's call him a boxer mix. That's what. But the point
is, just
lab mix.
He's a lab mix.
Right. That's everyone's favorite term.
Right. But the truth of the matter is, he is, and this is where the rubber meets the road. He is a big, powerful dog. He wasn't managed correctly. That's how he probably ended up in the shelter. I'm not sure of his exact history. But he's this big 3-year-old powerful dog, full of muscle. And he's difficult for the average person to manage, including some of the shelter staff. So our goal, whether we're successful or not, I don't know. We only got him yesterday. He came to us, and we do what we do. We let him run on a field, and he's this. And if you want to follow his antics, and I call it antics, you can watch him on our YouTube channel. We video a lot of this. And if somebody, it's a good time because we just started today. And if you want to follow Curtis's journey through what we do, it'll be pretty interesting because I think he's going to end up to be an amazing dog. What does that mean? Doesn't mean he's for every human being. That doesn't mean if you have a 10-year-old child and your 10-year-old child wants a dog for Christmas, Curtis probably isn't the one. Your kid probably shouldn't even, you shouldn't be running out impulsively to get a dog. So Curtis we have him. He's running around. He's a stick fanatic, and we're just going to watch him. We're going to teach boundaries. Obviously, an 80-pound dog can't jump on people. So when a dog like Curtis jumps on a child or a 70-year-old lady or 80-year-old, the story is going to go that the people were attacked by a pit bull. But the truth of the matter is he's just a big, exuberant dog that needs the right person to manage his energy. So we manage dogs that have all kinds of behavioral issues, but we accept them for who we are, right? So if you have a deaf child, you accept the deaf child, and you love them, and they'll teach you more lessons in life than you will from a hearing child. If you have, so they come with great gifts. But if you're a control freak and a toxic human being, which a lot of people are toxic, so they want to project all their toxicity on a poor dog. And they do it in a very nice way sometimes, but that's a topic for another show.
Right, let's not get into that.
Let me not go off of ranting on toxic people.
Also, I think to kind of bring this around, so Almost Home and the Training Wheels program, what Camille's involved in, and I know her parents, so these dogs now that were brought to the Brook, or I guess it was Babylon. Mm-hmm. But now the Hounds Town Charities may work with these dogs in the future, like if they need behavioral work. So we kind of go in and address dogs that have, that are not as adoptable as other dogs. Right. So, I think every charity has its purpose. And I think that
completely
it's, because I've heard that too about, why go to these neighborhoods, just go and take the dogs. But you can't go on people's property and take the dogs. And it's actually, I think, and let me know what you think about this. But it's kind of ignorant for people to say that, because it's, you have to learn how to work with people and do the best you can for them, and provide what they need to do the best thing for the dog. So, and that's not always taking the dog.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of the families do really care for the animals. There are a handful, obviously, that are neglecting them. But there are families that really do need the help. And, they get food and medical that they need to care for the animals.
And I think the biggest thing is education. So what Almost Home does, this is an educational program where you're teaching people how to be responsible dog owners. You're not just going in and taking their dog. They're going to turn around the next day and maybe get another dog. Right. So if you don't teach them something, and they're never going to, it's like a, it's a educational approach to dog ownership and just life.
Right.
Definitely.
And that's what we do. We partner up. And that's what as they say, what did my friend Hillary say? It takes a village, right? So it's not just one, it's not a monolithic.
Right. That's what I guess I'm, alluding to, is that Almost Home has its purpose. Yeah. It serves its purpose.
The shelter has its purpose. Yeah, it's a public safety place, and it has to provide.
The Hounds Town Charity has its purpose, and then a foster, an adopter. Everyone, does take a village to save a dog.
Right. But the trick is, reputable organizations. And I have another show coming up in a couple of weeks of the fraud involved with rescues and charities and how they play on people's emotions, and they just money oriented. They just want donations. But I don't want to digress into that, because that really angers me.
Right.
Well, I think a lot of the reason that Hounds Town Charities was started was to bridge the gap that was missing from shelter to home.
Right.
So a lot of these dogs were just leaving and going into home. There was nothing in between, no assessment, no observation, no behavioral work.
Right.
They weren't working with the people or the animals.
Right, absolutely. Right. And that's what creates this return rate, like Camille said. So it's great to get dogs adopted, but if they're going back into an environment that the people don't understand, it doesn't mean a bad environment, but some of these dogs, if you don't set boundaries for them, if they're allowed on the couch and they're getting, food, a lot of boundary issues. And the truth is, it's at the dog suffers because of this. So we do try to bridge the behavioral gap with understanding. So completely agreed. The other thing I'd like to say regarding these shelters, and right now what's really loathsome, is that a word? Loathsome? How do you say that?
Sure, why not?
Okay. What's really ugly is this Facebook brigade, I call them. So there's people that are on Facebook. They don't really contribute anything except toxic ideas and attitudes. They don't know anything. So even in the case of this dog, Curtis, for example, people have an opinion about him, right? Well, everybody has an opinion. But who is stepping up to the plate to do really something to affect the dog's behavior? Either donate money, do something other than go on Facebook and criticize the shelter, criticize me. I'm sure I'll get some criticism at some point by anonymous sources that don't have I welcome you on the show. That's the beauty of the open mic show. This is a forum. So, of course, there's some truth in everything. Shelters, I believe, do the best they can. These are not horrible people. They try very hard. And I've always said this, and I've been dealing with shelters forever. And I'd say be shelter director for a day. So if you're, rather than sitting on your Facebook, report to the shelter. And I really think the shelter should do that and allow somebody to sit behind the shelter director's desk, and you make the decisions of what to do with the constant what's the treadmill of dogs coming and going. There's not an easy solution to this. So I find a little bit of that really insidious. Facebook brigade. You have a couple of glasses of wine, you go on there, you bash everybody. Say something nice. Say something nice about, how about not what bad everybody's doing? How about what good they're trying to accomplish? And while you sit on your Facebook thing and just gossip. No good. I don't have a Facebook account, so you can go bash me on Facebook. You won't find me there, because I tried that once. I just got agita. All right, so we're gonna we're gonna wrap this up in a little bit. We got a minute or so. So then, Camille, what are we going to talk about? You wrote this wonderful book. You did The Real Love Experiment. And what is that? Just give us a little tease that, so to speak. What are we going to be talking about?
Okay. Well, I took this 90-day period of time, and I was in a new relationship, and I used it to basically understand myself, understand love, understand other people, why we do what we do, why relationships succeed or fail, the difference between conditional, unconditional love, omissions, fear, how all this affects our life and relationships. And it basically was everything I learned, all the lessons I learned after talking to other people, really digging in deep with myself, and tools that can be applied.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, all right, so we're going to pick that up because one of the things we talk about, dogs are authentic. They can't be anything other than authentic. So Curtis is as authentic as he can be. He can't be a Democrat. He can't be a Republican. He can't be a metrosexual.
And he can't have unconditional love. That's
can't. Right. He can't have unconditional.
Conditional love.
Right.
He has unconditional.
love. Animals have
yep.
unconditional love. This is why they're therapy dogs. This is why we love them. And I think that they'll probably, I'm not sure, but when we talk to Camille after our 6 or 7 minute break, we're going to learn about unconditional love, and accept people just for that they're human beings.
Yep.
All right, we're going to take a break. Hounds Town, USA, home to the happiest dogs on earth. New location in Deer Park coming up.
What's the first? She used to bring me my newspaper. I'm gonna buy me a dog.
A dog? Why?
'Cause I need a friend now.
Babe, you need a friend.
I need a friend. I need a friend now. Welcome back to the Open Mic Show. I'm your host, Mike Gould. We are back here at MacArthur Airport, Wednesday evening, Thanksgiving Eve. The Open Mic Show is sponsored by Hounds Town USA, home to the happiest dogs on earth, with 4, now I can officially say 4 great locations. What's
Finally.
that? Finally. Deer Park, Comac Road, right by where the intersections of, right by the Tanger's Outlet, the court building. Is going to be a tremendous place. So look for the opening. How do they find out about that, Jackie? Like, how do they follow that?
Go on Facebook, Hounds Town Comac, on the page, and you can also go to our website, houndstownusa.com, and all of the contact information is on the website and on the Facebook page, and you can get signed up for the email list, which is a good idea because you'll receive
free
coupons,
stuff,
lots of free stuff.
Free stuff. Probably a free day of daycare if you live in that area.
Probably,
free day.
Maybe some free grooming. I mean,
something.
Terry, the owner, is really working on a lot of really great things. So she's going to be doing a lot of specials to get new customers and promote her business.
She's a very generous soul. So look for free. I'm encourage free. Free is nice. Better than 10%, 20% for free. All right. So it's Thanksgiving Eve. We're here with Camille Lucy. We're going to be talking with her about her book, the real 90-day love experiment. I talked a little bit about Thanksgiving. And one of the things that dawned on me, I talked about my family, and we always say how, that's what's most important to us, the humans in our lives. But there is of course, even with our humans in our lives, everyone has 1 or 2 people in their families that are suffering from something. So, whether it's addiction, whether it's depression, that's not always a day of celebration. People are, I have a father dying and stuff. So it's the life cycle is very interesting, and we do have a lot of, we have people with addictions and stuff that are suffering. I know my family does, and I'm sure most people somewhere have that happening in their lives. So I do want to always take a moment or second to just give a shout out and hope those people find their way through, navigate through life and find their way. All right, so we were talking about Hounds Town Charities and why dogs are so wonderful, and I think this is going to segue. Why do we? Why are there so many dogs in this world? There's not elephants, there's not pigs, there's dogs, because dogs are authentic creatures, right? And they're emotional creatures, and they give unconditionally. And they don't pretend. A dog cannot pretend to be anything. So as humans like to label ourselves, right? We label. We just finished this toxic election thing with Republicans, liberals, Democrats, conservatives. And it sucks the life out of you. We just as humans have a tendency to label everything. We label our genders. We label everything about us, our social status. We're rich, we're poor, we're middle class. Not only that, the next toxic thing that we do, and Jackie and I talk about this all the time, we're a society of victims. Everybody's victims. And dogs, animals don't see themselves as victims. Unfortunately, they are victims, but they don't see themselves as victims. But when I think about, what was I listening on the radio? There's a crying room at a university because somebody lost the.
I don't think that's just one university. I think that's like a lot of universities.
Right, they had a crying room because Hillary Clinton lost the election. Not to say that everybody, I mean, whether you're happy about the outcome of the election or not, a crying room in a university.
The point is, you have to adapt to life and deal with things that you don't like. And if you're allowed to go in a room and cry about it, first of all, your parents are paying about $60,000 a year for you to go cry in a crying room.
Go to class and learn something about life. Better yet, quit school. You want to learn about life?
God, don't tell them that.
Yes, quit college.
Don't tell people to quit school.
Not elementary, not my grandchildren. They're too young. But college. Quit college and go out in the world, travel the world, jump on a train. And that's where you learn life's lessons.
Well, you learn it in the classroom at college if you're not in the crying room, if you're actually in class learning.
No, I know. You and I constantly talk about that where, and I get it, I suppose. But the point is, one thing you will agree, everybody is a victim, and they play this victim card no matter who it is, whether you're transgender, you're black, you're white. Everybody is not victims, right? What am I now, an old white man? I'm not a victim.
Been that for a while.
Yeah. We were down. One of the things that I do like to always talk about, Jackie and I travel for our charity, for Hounds Town Charities. We visit shelters all over the country, all over the world for that matter. And we travel a lot. And one thing, even during this most toxic election season where everything was Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, racism, we go to these wonderful, we just came back from Memphis, Tennessee, probably the biggest interracial city that I've ever been to. And it was wonderful. Muslims, black, white, gay people, everybody had one thing in common, in my opinion. They were respectful of everyone else. Even the homeless people were respectful. They just had, there was a certain energy in Memphis, Tennessee. It was just, would you agree with that, Jackie, or am I crazy?
No,
there was a certain energy of respectfulness. And I think that's what we lost out here in life, civility. So we talk about how wonderful we are and how intelligent we are, and Thanksgiving and the holidays. Yeah, go drive down the Sconset Highway in the morning. It's like road rage. So people want to kill each other on their way to get Christmas presents. They literally do, right? The stores open tomorrow's Black Friday. People will be killing each other to get presents to give to people for Christmas or holidays, whatever the right thing is. Kwanzaa, whatever it is. All right, so this stuff gets me, political correctness gets me crazy, obviously, because there's a hypocrisy to it. So I treat everyone with respect. Everyone. And when you do that, you take people for face value. One of our first guests was transgender. Julie? Mm-hmm. And I didn't understand transgender. It was a time when we start labeling bathrooms, that, of course, is off the radar now. But 6 months ago, that's all people were talking about, what bathroom to use. And then so we had Julie come in, transgender. And she came in, and she's just a human being. She was delightful. She was here with our husband. I mean, I didn't understand all the social concepts.
It's her wife,
actually. It's her wife. It was he, she. I don't know. But it wasn't important because she was she was this wonderful human being. And we sat here very respectfully. We didn't debate. We didn't argue. I tried to learn a little bit about her. She tried to learn a little about me, maybe. But it was cool. It was interesting. So I think that's respectability and civility is something that really is lacking, I think, a little bit. Anyway, so let's get back to Camille. All right, Camille. I'm sorry, Camille's dozing off over there. I'm talking too much. So Camille wrote this wonderful book, The Real Love Experiment. It kind of segues, I think, of what we're talking about as animals are pretty pure.
Absolutely.
So talk about this book. So you wrote it. It was go ahead. You talk.
So relationships are our greatest teachers, whether it be our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with other people, family, significant relationships, our children, even with animals. And through relationships, we have the opportunity to learn all about ourselves, our fears, our triggers, our patterns, our stories, our judgments, the ways that we're not giving unconditional love, but we have conditional love, which people do to their pets too. Like you were talking about with Curtis, you're just letting him be who he is. And that's really unconditional love, is acceptance of who everyone is, who you are yourself. So I took this 90-day period of time to use my relationships to learn about life, to learn about enhancing our life, to be happier, to have more joy, fulfillment, and, the ways that we have judgments, we have stories, patterns, things that they're our go-to comfort moves, basically. And, but if you take the time to really look at why you're reacting to things and how you feel, you can move past it, you can heal, you can grow, and you can have more happiness, love, and joy in your life.
It was really about like self-realization, and
Absolutely. Yep.
self-actualization,
Mhm.
which
Well,
is definitely something that I think most people in this world lack.
Right. They
I
don't
think
look
it's the root of many things, and many toxic things.
self-awareness,
Yeah,
self-actualization.
self-awareness. Yeah.
Well, it's easier to point the finger elsewhere.
Right, absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's what we kind of talk about with all the victims in the world.
Yeah,
It's easy to blame someone
definitely.
else. One word that jumps out at me, and I know this from dealing with dogs, really, and I learned most of my life lessons, not necessarily in human relationships, but with animals. And I just have a connection. I watch them, whether it's a flock of birds flying or a herd of horses running in a field. I learn something about them. And then when I see people and their relationship with dogs, there's a common theme that when people even come to our Hounds Town USA dog, they come to the table with a lot of fear and guilt. And if I could identify two emotions in my mind that are the most debilitating, that really slow people down and prevent them from being who they are, it's fear. And I see in one of these highlights, you say how fear plays a very direct role
Absolutely.
in the
Yeah.
lives and relationships. And what do you mean by that?
Oh, God, that could be anything. That can be fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, fear of being happy, fear of looking at yourself. It's really endless.
Right. And it's sabotaging, right? So there's
Yeah.
self-sabotaging.
Yeah, well, then the fear kicks in, you get triggered, then you go to these patterns, and it's self-sabotaging.
And one of my big ones for myself personally is guilt. I feel guilty.
Yeah.
I feel guilty about everything. Everybody. I feel guilty for almost everybody I come across. I feel guilty, and I know it's toxic, whether it's my children, whether it's relatives, whether it's just a stranger that just, in my view, isn't living. But the truth of the matter is these people might be very good, but my projection of what they should
Absolutely.
be, I feel
Yep.
guilty about, that's a big problem for me.
Yeah, and that enables other people to stay stuck in their stories and patterns.
Right,
So,
enabling. That's
yeah.
another big word, enabling these behaviors. But I do find it very interesting, and when I try to make the comparison to animals are simple creatures. And of course, everybody will say that they're animals, they're not humans, they don't have a sophisticated human brain, which I think in some cases it's great, but in other cases it's a curse having our big developed brain.
Well, they're very present all the time.
Absolutely. So, exactly. So when I look at them, I make a quick assessment. They're either safe and secure or not. Period. End of story. There's not much more complications to a dog specific, or most animals. They're either in there, a bird is in its nest, safe and secure. A horse is with its herd, safe and secure, or not. When a predator comes or danger comes, they get out of balance. And balance is another important word that I think that you would agree, and you can expound on that balance, fear, and guilt are. So how do you take those emotions and put this into your kind of your book here? Well, how do you see those things as guilt playing a role?
Well, guilt is part of fear. Absolutely. So that definitely does play a role. When you feel guilty, you choose something you wouldn't normally choose. So you're kind of misaligned. You're not really being fully authentic. You're afraid of what's going to happen. As far as balance, like the dogs, being present really solves most of your problems because you're not thinking about the past, you're not worrying about the future, you're just as you are. And you can experience that moment, and as things come up, you can address them.
Okay. Let me just ask you, so how does somebody get a hold of this book? Because it really is interesting. It's called The Real Love Experiment.
Yeah.
Explore Love, Relationships, and Self. Where can somebody get a hold of this book?
On my website at CamilleLucy.com,
Okay,
CamilleLucy.com. It's also on Amazon.
Right. And it's something worth reading. For a person like me that's really not a good reader, it's not a big, thick book.
I like the exercises at the end of each chapter too, because you're not just sort of preaching. It's not just all theory. It's actual, things that people can take in their everyday lives. And apply.
To reflect on things, ask yourself questions. Yeah.
And I'm sure, obviously, there's no 90. This is one of those things, 90-day love guarantee. You get your money back if you follow the
no
book.
Guarantee.
There's no guarantees. But I think it's probably more of a journey that you.
It is.
And you can go back and catch yourself. You're going to obviously struggle. You're going to face challenges in your life every day. You have 3 children, so that is a challenge in and of itself. So
and 2 dogs and 2 kittens.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't think you're giving the impression that you read this book and life is rosy and you're just going to skip through life. But that's important to know. It's and I think it's hard for these things don't come easy. Omissions. And
No. It takes a while. It takes practice. But what happens is you catch yourself sooner and sooner and sooner, and then challenges become opportunities then. Mm-hmm. So instead of getting upset and aggravated, you can say, why is this happening? How can I look at this differently? How can I handle it differently? So the challenges, while they're still there, they're not as detrimental.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And it's a process. I know as a recovering alcoholic, we talk about 90. You want 90 days of something. Yeah. Kind of sets the tone. It's not 90 days and you're good and you're healthy, wealthy, and wise. But it's and I guess that would apply to almost any lifestyle change. If you're going to have a lifestyle change, whether it's 90 days of exercising, and if you're consistent with it and you go back and check yourself.
Yeah, well, it's a commitment and it's a process. So at the end of it, if you've been committed, even somewhat, you can look back and see how much you've grown just from that 90-day period.
Right. And like addiction, there's probably relapse, obviously. So you're not you're going to go 3 steps forward, 2 steps backwards. Mm-hmm. But the goal is continual growth.
Yes.
And self-awareness and growth, and try to align yourself, I'm assuming, with people that share that, so we live in this very toxic world.
Well, it's hard when you don't have anyone.
Well, it's hard to be, number one, it's hard to be authentic because we live in a world of absolute inauthenticness, right? Nobody's real.
Yeah.
So that's always been my struggle is how do you interact with people every day when 99% of those people are not even near the same sort of realization level, or they're not doing this 90-day commitment to themselves and bettering. They're just like, they're so toxic. So how do you, what's the best way to manage that?
Well, what actually happens, which is interesting, is as you realign with things that you believe in and you enjoy, a lot of the toxic people fall out of your experience, and new ones are brought in that match what you're into now. And otherwise, the unconditional love again. You just have to be open and just see them for what they are and not get attached to it.
Right. No, that's good. That's interesting. So you just accept people for who they are. These could be family members.
And nothing's personal.
Right.
So no matter how they act to you, it has nothing to do with you. We only see people through our own eyes. So if someone's angry at you, they already have anger inside them. It's not really personal.
Right.
So.
No, it's very interesting. So yeah, folks, listen, just the one top ways to truly love someone and yourself. This book is pretty cool. The Real Love Experiment by Camille Lucy. And I think it is it's just a helps you journey through things that people are so consumed by everything but themselves. Like they're consumed by materialism, keeping up with the Joneses.
Well, it's a distraction to face yourself. So
It's exactly.
Some people might not be interested.
No, they're not. But if they're
I'd
not
rather
interested,
stay like that.
whoa, if they're not interested, that means they're not ready to be interested. So at some point in their lives, and I talk about this in recovery, if you're struggling, suffering from addiction, you might not be ready today to accept the journey, so to speak. But somewhere, whether you do it at 30, 40, 50, or 60, you need to look in the mirror, reflect on yourself, and not blame the world.
Definitely.
And look and say, and it's not easy. I'm one of the big omitters of the world, right? Omissions are my specialty, right? I mean, they used to lie outright. I went from outright lying to a lot of omissions, right?
Well,
You're moving up.
I'm moving up. I don't know. Yeah, I can't picture myself going, because I think people lie. I just do. So if I go to a wedding and I see bridesmaids, I have to say, wow, those are nice dresses. Meanwhile, I want to vomit. So I don't know how do this tomorrow? Well, I'm not going out tomorrow, Thanksgiving. Right, Jackie? We're not.
We're staying home.
I told my lovely daughter, who invited us over, to put a turkey sandwich in the mailbox for me, and I'll swing by and pick it up, because I don't want to lie. And if I go and socialize with people,
we didn't lie. We said we don't want to come because
no, not to my daughter, but if we went, we'd be forced to lie.
Exactly. So we told the truth in the beginning, so we don't have to lie now.
Right. My daughter, Heather does make a really good bread pudding. I'm not lying.
You just
about
want it
that.
in the mailbox.
Right, just put it in the mailbox. There's some very lovely people there, but I'm sure this. And again, I that's the way I see it. It's hard. I don't want to lie. The Hounds Town USA, Hounds Town Radio. Go to our Facebook page. Nobody goes to our Facebook page. And watch Curtis's journey, the town of Brookhaven dog. Curtis from the town of Brookhaven. And then if you want to adopt him, how about this? If you can't have a dog, why don't you sponsor a dog? For $14.99 a month, you can sponsor our resident dogs, Spike, Diamond, and Cappuccino. And if you can come visit, we'll send you, it's kind of a nice kind of thing, because they live at Hounds Town, because they can't be adopted out because they don't fit into the framework of what the Norman Rockwell photographed for Christmas so Spike
would be like biting you.
Spike will bite you. Spike will bite you in the butt, and then your best friend forever.
Right,
Hounds Town USA.
Go.
Goodbye, everybody. See you next week.